everybody. And you know I got a book of poetry, right? Book of poems and jokes. It's called Don't Beat Your Children or They'll Turn Out Like Me. And when I'm out there selling my books, people, black women especially, always see the book title and they roll their eyes at me. Because they tell me, they say, that's what's wrong with the world today. These kids need their ass beat. Where did they get this shit from? The world has always been fucked up. You know, there's always been shootings, there's always been stabbings, there's always been muggings, there's always been rape. The world, there's always been fires. Children gonna be children. Children do things. Children do shit. What does a child do that it warrants a beating or a spanking? This is some old slave shit. And people call their children kids. A kid is a baby goat, and a baby goat is rebellious in nature. And this is why we call children kids. But children are not kids. You know, they're children. They're babies. They're children growing up and they're learning as they go, and they're going to make mistakes and they're going to do things. But what do they do that warrants you to beat them like a slave? And the funny thing is, like Caribbean people and Caribbean nannies, you know, they're so adamant about beating their children, but they don't beat the white children that they look after. You know what I'm saying? And those white children will later grow up to be bosses and owners of their own company, and black children will grow up getting a job working for these white people. You know, and we still live by this philosophy of spare the rod, spoil the child. What the fuck does that mean? Where do we get this shit from? What does spare the rod, spoil the child mean? That means you beat your child with a rod? And like I tell, like, you know, like we're on Facebook debating right now about beating children. And you always get these people that say, I got my ass beat when I was growing up, but I deserved it. That's some slave bullshit that makes you think you don't deserve shit in life. And like I always say, what does a child do that it warrants you to beat them? You know, and if beatings worked, and when the tables turn and it's time for you to take care of your parents, and they old and elderly, do you beat them when they do shit that they shouldn't do? And the funny thing about elderly people is that they're very cocky and they think they can still do shit that they used to do when they was younger, like driving and cooking. You know what I'm saying? So let them, you know, are you going to beat your parents for going out there and taking the car even though that they're old enough or legally old enough to still drive? From what I understand, I'm not sure, but I don't think there's a limit to how old you can be that you're unable to drive a car anymore. I just don't see where beatings work. I just don't see that. And I think a lot of times beatings come from generations and generations of self-taught ignorance. And a lot of times parents just don't know how to talk to their children. Beating is a quick fix. Like I always joke about it. Why do you teach your children how to walk and talk, but then you tell them to sit down and shut up all the time? Parents don't spend time with their children. And a lot of times these children grow up in a home, single parents. They don't have a mother and father. And a lot of these guys that grew up in single parent homes don't know how to take care of their children. And I'm not saying that they don't do it. I'm just saying they don't know how to talk to them. If you grew up with a home with nobody talking to you, how are you going to learn how to talk to your children? You know, I just don't think beatings work. I just think it's bullshit. I just think you got to practice patience and you got to learn how to talk to your children. And I just don't see where beatings work. I just don't see it. That's just me taking it. That's just me. All right, y'all.